Hello, everybody. The following is a preview of the bonus content that you can find on Patreon. The link is at the bottom. It's on our description on Instagram. It's on our description in Spotify. So, go listen to that stuff on Patreon for relatively cheap prices. It helps us keep the podcast running, and I think you'll find it's worth your while. But here's a little preview for you to decide for yourself. Thanks, guys. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to NAPP, Not a Professional Podcast, the show where you are probably paying to listen to this episode because it's a bonus one. My name is Jaren, your host, as per usual, and with me, as always, is our friend Brad. He can't speak until I say his key phrase, as we learned the last time we tried to record this episode, so maybe I'll just keep talking for a while, and he has to stare at me sadly with his big brown puppy dog eyes. He just looks so sad right now. Say hi, Brad.
Hi.
This is the first time in probably a year now that we've ever recorded without someone else in the room.
Yahoo!
Isn't that weird?
Weird.
Because the original idea for this podcast was that it was just going to be you and I doing stuff and talking about whatever. And we tried to record an episode like that, and it didn't work at all.
At all.
It was terrible. So I'm hoping
terrible.
that we have enough podcasting experience now to do an episode by ourselves. We're in the big leagues now.
Now we're big boys.
Yeah, big
We took
shots.
off the diaper. Now we're pantsless.
Yes. No pants. No underpants.
I'm halfway through potty training, so if I accidentally defecate or urinate myself during the podcast recording, do not be alarmed. And I will put the mic right up next to the action.
Thank you. We big preach that.
Why do you think people are paying? It's like OnlyFans.
That's true. They're paying to listen to Brad defecate and urinate. I forgot that we did do an episode with ourselves. It was the YouTube launch episode.
Oh, yeah. That was Aura.
Maybe if we still have that audio file, we should put that on the Patreon for Patreon listeners.
Sure.
But they can also listen to it for free on YouTube, which they should do.
That'll be the preview.
Yeah. Maybe this episode will be our preview episode that we put out because, sadly, guys, we don't have time to make an official episode this week because nobody wanted to come on and be a guest. I couldn't find anyone.
Anti-Sigma.
I know. Negative Riz. So if you know anyone.
Riz. I haven't heard that word in a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyways, today's episode is a fun little game I came up with called Who's the Expert? No, it's called I'm the Expert. My bad, guys. And I also probably didn't come up with it, but the premise of the game is that me and Brad are going to take turns giving each other topics that one of us knows a lot about and the other does not know much about at all. And the person who knows a lot about the topic has to ask the person who does not know much at all about the topic to explain the topic to them. And they're not allowed to correct them, and they have to ask questions if they have any.
Okay.
So, do you want to start off, or should I?
Start off?
Yeah. Do you have a topic that I have to explain to you?
Do I have a topic?
Because I have one if you have to think about it for a minute.
Yeah, I don't have a topic yet because I wasn't thinking about it.
That's fair. Okay. Well, in the meantime, since you're such an expert, explain to me how you think that dinosaurs explain to me how you think that, the dinosaur extinction happened.
Oh. Well,
Actually, no. Let's make it, just because I think that'll be too short, let's make it explain to me how dinosaurs went from being alive to being in museums. I want the full process.
okay. I think dinosaurs,
Dinosaurs?
they most of them that we think of aren't dinosaurs, but you know,
That's okay.
the dinosaurs themselves. I don't even know which ones are real dinosaurs really.
Yeah, it gets a little confusing.
But some of the real dinosaurs, the sexy ones.
Mm-hmm. We can say things like that because I don't think my grandma's listening to these ones.
Yeah.
But let's still keep it PG-13 at least for the young'uns.
Yeah. Anyways, so the dinosaurs, they were smooching around, reproducing. You know how it is.
Yeah, just
And
like anything else, yo.
I think that, at least I've heard that it was. I only know really about two things that could have mixed together to cause a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the scene was kind of like an apocalypse.
Yeah.
With a lot of volcanoes.
Okay.
Because I'm guessing the most habitable areas are like coasts, and that's where, volcanoes were the most.
Yeah.
I've heard there was a lot of volcanoes that were volcanoes, they black out the sky and they're poisonous and
bad stuff there.
They cause climate problems, especially when there's a lot of them. Like they cool down the entire earth and stuff. Which was bad because it was really hot.
Yes.
Back then.
That is true.
Or
at least I would guess, because you're the expert and I'm not.
I am the expert. I heard something about how the reason like all the fauna and everything got so big is because it was so humid and hot everywhere. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, then that was all happening. That that was complicating their lives a little bit, killing some of them off.
Yeah.
Probably polluting some water or something. I don't know.
Doing bad stuff.
And then an asteroid came and hit super hard.
Wow.
Apparently, it was a really big one too.
The biggest.
And it turns out when it's a really big asteroid, it can kill almost everything.
Yeah.
All the non-avian ones. Because the secret is that birds are dinosaurs.
True, I think. Because I'm not the expert.
Yeah, you're not the expert, Jaren. I know this.
Yeah, Brad knows this, and I don't.
The dinosaurs, the birds, are descended from the dinos, which is why if you put a tail on a chicken, it looks like a T-Rex.
This is a fact.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, so that all mixed together, and the asteroid, it was so big, like we couldn't even comprehend it with our minds, and so it destroyed a lot of stuff, and I bet that it all mixed together and made the climate not really livable, and the shockwave probably killed a lot of them too.
Yeah. Probably no good there.
I imagine that a lot of them, it was more of a slow killing off. Because I don't know if it's possible to kill off all of them at once. That doesn't really make sense. It's a big globe.
Globe is big, I heard. I heard that once.
But it is possible to destroy the climate so much that they all die that way. I don't actually know, but that's my educated guess. And then all their fossils turned into oil. Or like their living matter or whatever.
And that make cargo, right?
And then that makes cargo vroom. I had a very awkward stare into Jaren's pretty eyes there.
I was looking in his big puppy dog eyes.
Exactly. Anyways, then they go into the future. And it turns out that a long time happens.
Yeah.
That's how time works.
Dinosaurs are old, I heard. I heard that once.
Yes. And the dinosaurs were so long ago that it's kind of insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like 15 million years ago, I think. Maybe more like 100 million years ago. I don't know.
I'm not allowed to correct him, guys.
Some sort of millions of years ago. I know it was millions.
I heard it's a big number, yeah.
Between 100 and 15 million.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere around there.
And so during that time, their brittle bones and their flesh, mostly their bones, they kick up. They get replaced slowly by rocks.
Mm.
And that's the fossils, the fossilization.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they're fossils. And then people go and found the fossils and they thought they were dragons.
Wow.
Like, I don't know, 10,000 years ago? No,
Whoa.
That's a long time.
Dragon.
10,000's too long. Maybe more like 1,000 years ago. They dug some of them up because they had better shovels than they used to have beyond 1,000 years ago. And so they found them. They found the rocks, and they were shaped like awesome creatures. So they called them dragons.
Wow.
And then we found them again, and we were like, okay, these are ancient. And then scientists were like, they're dinosaurs.
Whoa.
And then they take those fossils and glue them together and put them in a museum.
Wow.
There it is.
You're an expert, man.
I'm
you
the
are
expert.
the expert. Have you thought about what I'm the expert on yet?
No.
Okay.
I had to think very hard about my dinosaurs.
That makes sense, yeah. Experts do have to do that.
While you correct me, I'll think of it.
Okay. Well, he did pretty good, The dinosaurs did die.
Eventually.
The thing is, there was actually, people think that there was one extinction event. There were multiple extinction events in
That's
which
what I was saying.
probably most of these things happened, and sometimes they were millions of years apart. And dinosaurs that we think of living together because of Jurassic Park and the media, they were further apart than we are from them.
That's also what I said.
Which is crazy. But there were a series of extinction events, and the final one probably culminated with the asteroid. It was called the KT extinction event.
Yes.
And that ended the age of the dinosaurs and ushered in the age of the mammals. But Brad was right. The non-avian dinosaurs did die, and the rest of them kind of stuck around, or at least most of them. And so that's where we get animals like Archaeopteryx and all of these flying bird-like dinosaurs that, they evolved into birds through evolution, if you're one of those people. I'm one of those people. I think that people who don't believe in evolution are loony.
Loony.
Have you thought about something
Good
yet?
word. No.
It can
Keep
be
going.
It can be anything. Guitar stuff. I don't know much about guitars, but anyways, I'll keep talking. Yeah, so the first fossilized remains were actually mammoth and mastodon fossils, and those were found in ancient Greece. So 2,500 years ago, probably.
Oh,
I know.
the
And
shovels were good.
yeah, their shovels were great. The Bronze Age brought in good shovels, yo. And they found mammoths and mastodons, and they thought they were cyclopses.
Oh, I knew this.
Big
I
people.
forgot. I actually did know that.
And the first time that dinosaurs were officially recognized and studied was sometime in the 1800s. And the first dinosaur, I want to say, dang it, I can't remember the name. I literally knew this, but it was a big old theropod. It's not T-Rex. It's not any of the big names. It's not one that you'd typically think of, but there was a very nondescript theropod that was the first officially named Dinosaur, which means terrible lizard. Because soar means lizard, and that's SAUR.
Was I right about the dragon thing?
Yeah, people in like China found bones and they thought they were dragons. A lot of ancient cultures found bones and they were like, these are probably something. And some of them, dragons, not too far off from dinosaurs. They look pretty similar.
Yes.
And yeah, basically the scientists take them and we glue them together and we stick them on metal frames and then we put them up in museums and also sell them for lots of money.
Yes. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. I will give it a 8.9 out of 10.
Yes.
That's what we're doing at the end now is we're ranking each other's.
All right, Jaron.
Okay.
No dilly-dallying.
No dilly-dallying.
Tell me about the evolution of sound equipment.
Oh, man.
Are you an expert?
I am an expert. Well, I learned from Mr. Hahn that, microphones and speakers are basically the same thing, just flipped inside out. But we all know that the first sound came from Bradley Sound Guy when he screamed into the void, knowing nothing was there. He wanted to...
I said, and then God was like, "Oh, let there be light," because he heard that I had a sound. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try that too."
It was basically like that. But first came the podcast, and then Bradley Sound Guy screamed because he wanted someone to hear the podcast, and then God heard the podcast, and then he was like, "Okay, let's make sound." Well, let's make everything else besides sound because Bradley Sound Guy invented sound.
No, he was like, let's make light.
Let's make light. Let's make the world. Let's do everything else. So, basically, after that came the tubes, the metal tubes. People were like, hey, if we yell into metal tubes loud enough, then it carries the sound. And people were like, this is awesome. So they installed metal tubes everywhere because they wanted to communicate. But then next they were like, what if we use the vibrations of string? So they attached cups to the string and then they held their ear up to the cups and one of the guys yelled into the cup and the string vibrated. And everyone was like, whoa, that's sound. Sound is vibrations. And then next, unrelatedly, was the telegram, which was just boops and bops. And that doesn't really matter. But then...
Yeah, I'll let you keep going.
Then came the first microphone, and they actually called it Schrongeldongle. Because it was invented in pre-World War I Germany.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, and
Jolly ho.
It was a big black box, and when you yelled into it, the blackness would hold on to the sound, and then when you sprayed water on it, it would get clean and less black because it's not dirty anymore, which, and then the sound would come out. And that's how the first microphone came. And then they were like, well, what if we hook it up to a speaker? And so they made a second bigger black box that when you sprayed off the sound of the Schrongeldongle, the dinglebanger collected the black dust that the sound is on, and it made it bigger because it was bigger, and so it was louder. And that was the first speaker. Mm-hmm. And then the first computer was made.
Yes. Naturally.
Brad looks very confused.
Do you know what you're trying to talk about here?
Sound equipment.
Perfect. Okay, keep going.
The first computer got made, of course, and with it, they needed a way to use text to chat because writing on a typewriter is stupid. So they invented a microphone that took like sound waves and it turned it into binary, and that was the first real electronic microphone. And then they built a reverse speaker through, the same way that they built the Bingle Dangle or whatever it's called. Not my problem. And from there, they just kept making them bigger and giving them more electricity. And then they made the parts smaller and finer so that, like, this microphone, it can hear every word I'm saying because it's so small and delicate and also amped up with 1,000,000 amps of electricity. And that's how it works.
I don't know.
That's, they just, pump more electricity and make the parts smaller. And that's how microphones get better.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yes. I was thinking more like audio playback.
Oh, like
equipment.
speakers or like guitar stuff?
Like storage, like how you store audio.
Oh, you want me to talk about the storage of audio? I was thinking
audio equipment. There, that's a large umbrella.
Yeah, I was thinking like microphones and speakers,
Yeah, not just that.
Well,
there's more than just that.
Again, we can go back to pre-World War I Germany.
Oh.
Because, like I said, the little black box is actually a perfect storage for sound. You talk into it, and you can carry it around and put it down and then spray it. And then the sound comes off no matter where you put it. It's awesome. And they're like, what if there was a way to do this digitally? So they made the black box smaller. Like really, really small. Using computers. Which were invented later. And they made the smallest black box. And then they figured out that you can shove millions of these little black boxes into a bigger box. And they called it an SD card. Which stands for sound box card.
Naturally.
And I don't like this topic anymore.
Why not?
I'm worried that I'm too expert at it and I'm going to make this game not fun. Naturally. You get me?
Yes.
So, why don't you just explain it?
Okay. Well, I don't really know anything about when the first microphone was made.
I'm pretty sure my thing was right. Don't look it up.
Pretty close, I think. I think it's mostly just, because the microphone, they just found out that magnets and wires make each other vibrate when you talk next to it.
Yeah. Mr. Han would shoot me with a gun if he heard my explanation.
He would.
He'd be very upset at me.
Especially because you actually do know what they are.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
That's okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Han, if you're ever listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, like, the tube thing, I guess. Pretty much. I don't know about the cup and the string, because I don't really know if they had those. But
I don't either, man.
I don't.
Actually, I do. I'm the expert. They did.
Oh, yeah, you're the expert.
Keep
Anyways.
explaining, though, yeah.
Ancient civilizations had their tubes, and they hit them with sticks, and they made cool noises.
Yeah.
And then one guy was like, what if I make the tube kind of small, and then put a smaller opening on the tube, and then I blow into it? And then it kind of whistled a little bit, like a... And it didn't sound too good, but they used that. And then they added holes to it. They were like, what if I bang a rock into this and makes a hole? And then when they covered up the hole, the whistle was different. And that's the first woodwind.
Wow. So I was like way off on what I was supposed to be talking about.
There's a lot of stuff under that sound. It's sound.
Yeah, it's all sound, yo.
But this thing with the string was kind of close-ish. Because there was like stringed instruments that people put the strings on. I mean, if you make a rope and pull it tight and do this, it kind of makes a faint noise. Some genius discovered if they locked it in and then put a hole next to it, it was louder. And that's like a guitar.
Wow.
That came a lot after the woodwind.
Yeah, your explanation, I guess makes sense, but you're not the expert.
Yes. There's more.
Okay.
But that's not actually what I was meaning to talk about at all, really. I'm just going along with what you said mostly.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate
from your
that.
timeline. And then they already kind of knew that vibrations were sound.
Yeah.
Because of what we learned here today. And mostly because when you blow into an instrument, it vibrates when you touch it. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So some genius was like, let's put a really sharp needle and have it vibrate onto a really soft disc. Which, I don't know, humans are weird. They do weird stuff. And they had the disc rotate. And it carves a little groove into it, and that's called a record, a vinyl record. It didn't used to be vinyl.
What did it used to be, do you know?
No.
Oh,
probably just plastic, I don't know.
I
don't think it matters. You can make it out of anything.
I guess
vinyl is just very cheap and lasts a decently long time.
That makes sense.
But, so they cut these little grooves. And that was the first way of storing sound. And that's how they first recorded music. And they just did that way before any, computers or anything.
Yeah.
It kind of blows a hole in your computer argument.
I don't know if it's an argument so much as a fact, because I'm actually the expert.
Yeah, you're a fact. Naturally. And then, they would get a needle. This is pretty similar to your black box. They would get a needle and run it through those same grooves that they had already cut. It was a softer needle that bounced instead of cut. And so it went through those grooves, and then they, basically like the cup and the string that you said, they take that string, and then they send it into a big horn.
Oh, yeah.
That amplifies the sound like a guitar. And then you can hear it.
That makes sense.
And then some guy was like, oh, look, this magnet, if you take some... Okay, I don't really know how these work. It's really difficult to understand, but...
Yeah, we don't have to explain all the digital stuff, but...
Well, I know how digital stuff works.
Oh.
I don't know how cassettes work.
Oh.
I'm trying to talk... Cassettes are weird because it's like...
We can just skip cassettes.
A magnet strip of tape.
And
I don't know how they read it or write it. But cassettes are cool. And that was the next evolution. And then a CD is a digital cassette mostly. Compact disc. Which took them a long time to figure out. But basically, a CD is the exact same thing as a record. But the wobbles are just peaks and valleys. They're just really small. They're way smaller than the grooves on a record. Way smaller. So, not even dust can get in them.
So you're telling me that CDs actually do have grooves still? They have physical...
Kind of. But you can't feel them.
Yeah.
Because it's more like mirrors. Yeah, well, it's not like grooves. It's like matte and mirror.
Okay.
But it's the exact same idea. But it's just matte and mirror because a CD reads it by a laser going over it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why sometimes it's called a laser disc.
That makes sense.
And the laser, when it hits a matte part, it doesn't reflect back, and so it counts that as a 0.
Oh, and then it all transfers to binary.
Yeah, and the mirror reflects back, and it calls it a 1 or whatever,
Okay, that makes sense.
And it spins around, so it's just a laser hitting a disc. It's the same thing, just that one's a code, and that one's analog. The
Yeah.
other one.
Well,
And then the CD is basically what we have modern, like, I don't know, it's not very different.
yeah, we haven't really transitioned away from that yet.
I mean, we've gotten storage smaller.
Yeah,
You can
we
have
kinda-
a full digital
We kind
file
of just do
now.
digital files, but
That digital files is just
that's
the
just
same
taking
thing.
ones and zeros from a not physical space. That's taking it
Yeah.
from, like, you pull it off the internet.
Which really is just a bigger code that encodes the smaller code for the song.
Maybe we're all just codes, dude.
Because the format that it's storing in is just more binary. So the computer's like, oh, this is the binary that tells me to look at this binary right next to it. And that's the song.
That's weird.
I don't even know. It's really weird. Computers are complicated and hard to understand.
Yes, they are.
So yeah, that you're pretty close.
What are you gonna rate my explanation out of 10?
Let's go with a 3. It was inspired. It was creative.
I suppose I deserve that.
I don't know how much of it was accurate. I don't think SDs are for audio. Not even a little bit. They can have audio files in them, but
I
it's
do
mostly
not know
for the media.
Anything about computer parts or anything. I know that your graphics card makes the graphics good,
Yes.
and I know that the RAM is your short-term memory. That helps your games run fast. And your hard drive is what keeps the games on it. And the screen is what the game is on.
Yeah. RAM is random access memory.
And that's like short-term memory, but for a computer.
Yes. They can randomly access it whenever they need to pull something, and then all the memory gets deleted after. So it's like cookies, but then you turn off your cookies. It's like if you don't have cookies on a website.
That makes sense. Okay, well, we're already over time, but I'm having fun, so let's do one more lightning round.
Okay.
I actually don't know how much about this you're gonna know, but I would like to hear you explain the book of Genesis from the Bible, because you're a Bible expert.
This is going to be a disaster.
Hey man, you just heard me butcher how sound is stored, so. And for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, Brad doesn't know the Bible. Yeah, not everyone reads the Bible, yo.
The book of Genesis.
That's the creation story. That's like the first book of the
Okay.
Bible.
That's helpful.
Yeah, I got you.
That would have been hard without that fact. I was going to do something completely different than that.
No, yeah, that is the very first book.
No, I'm an expert, actually.
Yeah, oh, my bad.
My opinion would have
You
been
know
correct.
the Bible.
I know the Bible very well. There's never been anyone who knows the Bible better than me.
Uh-huh.
I'd say I'm the leading expert.
Brad
I basically
has-
wrote it.
This just in, Brad maybe co-wrote the Bible.
I was there. Yeah, I mean, you know, I
know.
had to erase myself from that story.
Yeah, because self-inserts, people get mad about that.
Yeah,
but-
exactly. Anyways, so we all know that on day 0, John Sound, which is my nickname.
His nickname.
He was like, and then the podcast was revealed to God.
Yeah.
And that God listened to the podcast, and he was like, oh, listen to that. That's beautiful. And then he was like, oh, and then he got inspired.
Uh-huh.
And then in his mind, the world got created. And basically, the whole world is his, like, hallucinations from hearing
The
podcast. It's like listening
Wow.
to music and you imagine stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we are.
That's beautiful.
But anyways, he was like, let there be light on the second day.
Uh-huh.
The second one, because that's the best day.
Oh, yeah.
No one likes Mondays.
No, nobody does.
Everyone likes Wednesdays. That's the second day equivalent.
Uh-huh. Wednesday is basically the Tuesday of the week.
And then on the third day, he was like, "Yo, what's up, my groovy gangsters?" You know, and
As one does.
that's what created thugs.
So day 0 was like the idea,
Sound.
and then day 2 was light,
yeah.
and then day 3 was thugs.
Thugs.
Okay.
Obviously, day 1, we don't talk about day 1 anymore.
We don't talk about day 1.
Yeah, it's private. Private information.
Yeah, you don't need to know what happened on day 1.
You have to buy your Scientology courses to figure that out.
Oh man.
And then the secret fourth day
Uh-huh.
is when nerds and jocks, their eternal dynamic was thought up.
So he wrote that into creation.
Yeah, because
Wow.
they're and like in original humanity, it was all the nerds and jocks was like men and women. The women like gathering, like nerds gather knowledge, and the men liked being
Hunting,
jocks, like
ner-
sports. They did sports.
Oh yeah.
That evolved into just men on men action because, humans like getting a little freaky.
Yeah.
In high school, in the high school age.
This is a true fact.
And then there was also like angels and stuff for some reason. Because, hallucination. Whatever. It was a cool idea.
Cool idea, yeah.
And then
Kind of like hedgehogs.
and they named everything. They were like, what can we screw over the most? And then they named that one dog Pibble, and he's like, rub my belly. They're kind of sick creatures a little bit, but they're also like nice.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they like bless you with a good name. Like Jaren.
Or Bradley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
Wow. That was beautiful.
I know, shed a tear.
Do you actually know anything about the Bible creation story?
That's about how much I know.
Oh, wow.
I'm the expert.
Yeah, no, you are the expert. Well,
I know that he said, "Let there be light,"
he did say that once.
and all the other stuff I said as well.
I will give you what's a good score? A 4.0. And the O stands for offended, because I'm sure at least one person who listened to that was.
You don't need to be offended because it was comedy.
And it was comedy gold too.
Comedy gold because I was there. So I'm doing relatable comedy.
Yeah. It's relatable. It's fine, guys.
So
Well, that went about as well as I expected. So
I could have tried to make it more realistic for the normies out there, but
I feel like the more realistic you would have tried to make it,
the worse it would have been.
Yeah, the more offended people might have gotten. So I feel like you sat right in that perfect nook where like you were just accurate enough that people would be like, aha, he's talking about that, but also just comedic enough where people are like, it's just a joke, yo.
Exactly.
You got to find that little corner, that little groove.
The truth is, I don't know anything because I haven't read it.
That's fair, yo. It's kind of long, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Anyways, do you have one more for me? Lightning round?
What do I even know about? Well enough.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is like, what do I know? And the tough thing is finding things that I know really well that you would know well enough to say something about, but
Exactly.
not well enough that you just explain it to me, you know?
Yes.
Like, I was gonna quiz you on, like, oh, tell me all the Undertale lore, but I don't know if you know anything about Undertale.
Huh. I used to.
That's fair, yo.
I don't think I do anymore.
For those of you who care, I've been playing Deltarune, and no spoilers, but holy cow, chapters 3 and 4 are out. It is well worth the $20. You get
20
like
bones.
you get like a 15-hour experience from chapter 1 to chapter 4, and there's still 3 more chapters that are coming that you'll get for free if you buy the game now.
Awesome sauce, robots.
So you'll probably get a good like 25 hours of gameplay for $20. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah. Okay, I have a good one.
Okay.
Tell me what... Oh, do I actually have a good one? Gosh, this is hard. I don't know if you know about this. How much do you know about Lord of the Rings?
Oh man, I know, like, I have a vague recollection of the movies.
Okay. Tell me about the War of the Ring.
The War of the Ring?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm an expert.
Okay.
Tolkien and I, good friends.
Oh.
He wrote down a bunch of stuff, right? He had all these books. It was way more understandable when he just said it to you.
Naturally.
So that's why I understand things that most people don't understand otherwise, because he talked to me so much. Side note, he was kind of a nerd. Like, literally all he thought about was his book. And I was like, dude, let's just go play some football or something. Yo.
I was going to say something really offensive, but I can't do that.
You can tell me after.
Okay.
Anyways, he was like, okay, so there's this war, right? And there's these 11 super powerful dudes.
Dudes.
And dudettes.
Were they macho?
Some of them. Some of them. They were kind of all like big old baddies. You know, they were kings and warriors and all these famous dudes. And
awesome.
There was, they all had rings of power, powerful rings. But one day, one of them was like, I want to be the most powerful. And that was Sauron. And he made a ring, the one ring to rule them all. And he was like, this is going to be the most powerful ring. But then he got all angry because his ring actually was kind of lame. And all it did was turn you invisible, but then you had to fight demons while you were invisible. Which seems like a dumb power. And so obviously he was upset about that. And he was like, well, if my ring sucks, I'll just take everyone else's rings. So we started killing everyone and taking their rings.
Okay.
And he got his whole army together because he's like a warlord, right? Mm-hmm. And he's attacking all these other guys who have rings. And they're like, no, don't attack us. And so they all go and throw their rings in the fire. Because they're like, no one can have this ring. It's too much cooler than Sauron's. And Sauron gets so mad that he's like, okay, we're attacking all of them and we're going to kill them. And he uses his ring to sneak up on them. And like, it's kind of dumb because he keeps getting interrupted by demons. Which he gets really frustrated by. But because he spends so much time being invisible, he's like, I just can see things now. Like, I see things that other people can't see because I'm just always around, you know? Mm-hmm. What's better than being invisible is being invisible and also having the ability to see things. And so he's sneaking around with his armies, and they're killing all the warlords and other holders of the rings that are now gone. And all of these guys are like, okay, let's team up. So they team up, and these guys called the Archons, I believe, they come down, and they're like, oh, we'll help you because this guy has a stupid demon ring, and we're angels, so we don't like demons. And so the Archons and the
Archons?
yeah, the Archons.
Okay.
That might be a Bible thing on accident. I'm not quite sure. I thought it was a Lord of the Rings thing, but now I'm just...
Well, you're the expert.
I am the expert. He actually said they're Archons. Their names might be changed elsewhere, but they're Archons. That's what they're supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, he takes his army and he's attacking, and all the warlords and other holders of the rings get together with the Archons and are like, okay, we're going to kill him. But little did they know that Sauron licked the ring.
Oh.
And so a piece of his soul got put into it, like Voldemort.
Right.
Because he was a copycat of Voldemort. Everyone knows that Tolkien was a massive Harry Potter fan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, he put part of his soul in the ring, and then he went and got killed, actually, by some of these angels during the big battle of the rings.
Oh.
In which he was trying to kill the other ring holders, and actually all of them died.
Oh.
Including Sauron, but he came back as a big tower because of the way that he licked the ring. And then this little guy and this man who did drugs and smoked was like, hey, go kill the dragon. And then he was like, okay. And he found a ring, and it was actually the ring, the stupid demon ring. And he took it, and then he gave it to his kid a few years later, even though he was like starting to get possessed by the ring. And he was like, hey, kid, go take it to the mountain and throw it in. And he was like, okay. And he could have just used the eagles to fly to the mountain, but the thing is, that would have made a really short book. And Tolkien was like, no, let's make things interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then that happened, and he destroyed the ring, and Sauron died, and, you know.
Okay.
Yada, yada.
Beautiful. Good one.
What is my rating?
That's pretty good, actually. Let's go with a 6 or a 7.
Yes!
6, 7.
That's pretty good. I'm impressed with me.
Yeah. Well, there were some logical errors there, but I think it was pretty good, Tolkien-wise. So really, Tolkien, in his lore, he said that the books are translations of this one book called the Red Book.
Okay.
That, in his weird mind universe, he was like, he found this Red Book from, ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like hundreds of thousands of years ago. He found this Red Book, and he translated it into English.
Mm.
And that's why, they're books.
Yeah.
And that's why they know it so much, or whatever. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm tired. But Sauron, you said something about him, like, killing all the guys with the rings or whatever.
Yeah.
Sauron actually made all the rings.
Oh, did he?
He did.
Okay.
But so Sauron is the embodiment of evil.
Like
he's
Satan.
Yeah, he's like the son of Satan.
Ah.
There was this guy named Morgoth
Ah.
who was basically Satan. And he destroyed a ton of the earth and stuff. And he, and then the angels, you were actually right about this, killed Morgoth.
Oh, cool.
But then, it destroyed a ton of the earth in the process of that godly battle.
Isn't Gandalf one of the angels
He is.
Reincarnated?
He is, yes.
I know that from...
They're called Maiar.
Oh, Maiar. That's the word.
Archon.
I don't know where I know that from.
So that's why I say you were pretty close, because that wasn't something that I guarantee you didn't know that. But then Sauron is like kind of his son, but kind of the same guy, reincarnated.
Uh-huh.
And he he's also a Maiar, but like an evil one.
Okay.
Same thing with like Satan or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just wants power. He's power hungry. And so he's also a shapeshifter.
Okay.
So he goes and he tricks the elves into making magic rings for him. He like gives them the blueprints and everything. And so they make 14 rings.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. There's an exact number out there. It might be 12. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But then in secret, he, with Celebrimbor, the forger, forged the One Ring, which, to you, yes, it is a wimpy, powerful ring that just makes you invisible. But actually, it has the power to control people's minds.
Oh.
Which is kind of supposedly how he's in control of the orcs, but not really. That's just his magical power.
Interesting.
But
okay.
With the ring, he can take over entire races of people, which is why they tried to stop him, because that was bad.
So wait, like when he's wearing the ring, he can do that? He can mind control people?
It's kind of like a wand.
Okay.
So other people can't use that power, but he can, because he put all of his magic into it to make the magic more focused.
Okay.
Into one thing. And so when he lost it, he lost most of his magic and died. But he really turned into like kind of a non-physical being, which is why he's in a tower.
He's a tower now, yeah.
He's a tower. It's more like he's an eye in a tower.
He's an eye who likes to hang out in a tower.
And also supposedly he does have a body, but you just never see it.
Interesting.
Because he physically talks to Gollum eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of weird. Anyways, that's just like the main stuff. They fight. He chops off his hand.
Yeah.
And then the ring is lost.
Yeah.
Also, those demons you were talking about are the other ring holders.
Oh, okay.
They're called ring wraiths.
Because
Sauron gave a ton of men these rings. And it turns out men are just like Sauron. They're power hungry. And so he was able to corrupt them super easily. And they turned into like ghosts.
Okay.
That he can control.
That makes sense.
Very powerful ghosts. And so when Frodo puts on the ring, he goes into a parallel dimension.
Yeah.
Where he can see their true forms. Like what they used to be.
Interesting.
Like the Wraith world. Which is why you can see demons or whatever.
Cool.
And then, he goes and takes the ring and throws it in the fire. The latter half was completely correct.
Dang.
No flaws.
Yes.
Yeah. And, okay, one more thing. The reason why the angels didn't just come in again and kill Sauron is because they didn't want to destroy a ton of the earth this time. So they decided to send in their angels as wizards who could manipulate people around them into doing that, into stopping Sauron. So they kind of just, with their magic, they kind of help people along the way so they don't get suspicious and they don't have to reveal themselves as angels and then kill Sauron.
That makes sense.
Yeah. There's a lot more about the actual War of the Ring. That ended up just being the lore instead of the war. Because the war...
The lore of the rings.
The War of the Rings is more of the second half.
Okay.
And we both skimmed over that part. But the lore is just as good.
I agree.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, this was about twice as long as I expected it to be, but I had a good time, which, honestly, I was a little surprised about. I was a little nervous because it was just you and I again, and
yes,
when we first tried that, it didn't go too well, but it was a good episode. I had a great time.
Might be a bit boring, but
yeah,
that's okay.
I think that in terms of bonus content, though, like people can expect more stuff like this, where I'm just trying to have a good time. We might have some guests. We'll probably bring on some old faces, maybe see a few new faces, but I don't know. That remains to be seen. But for now, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you
For paying.
There's no guest here.
Listening.
Yeah, thank you guys, the listeners, for listening.
You get a deep dive into our psyches.
Yeah, into the people that we are, which I think is really what this bonus content is going to be about, is me and Brad sharing more of ourselves, because we don't really get a ton of chance to do that on the main podcast. It's mostly about interviewing other people, so
Yes.
it's cool to have a platform where we can talk about us a little bit.
Or just joke around.
Yeah, just have a good time. I feel like Brad and I don't get nearly enough interaction in the podcast because we hang out all the time in the real world.
Yes. The next one will probably be a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Because there will be less to talk about.
Yeah, but, the nice thing about Patreon is that we don't have a storage limit per month, so we can just upload as much as we want.
I mean, I've downloaded 50 gigabyte files from Patreon before.
Yeah.
So.
You can just put as much as you want. So if episodes get really long like this, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much for paying us money and listening. And if you want more like this, stay subscribed to our Patreon, because
Yes.
there will be more coming at some point. I promise that we'll stay consistent. We won't just leave you guys waiting around. We'll try and put out episodes as often as we can here. So,
Yes. All right. We'll see you
yeah.
guys later. And as we always say,
how do we end this one?
I've decided.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
thinking about it.
Okay.
I've decided, because it's NAPP, nap.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's good night.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided it's two things.
Okay.
We normally say asparagus.
Yeah.
I think we should say broccoli as well.
Okay.
So,
Good night, broccoli.
Good night, broccoli.
Good night, broccolis.
Good night, my little broccolis. Good night.
Good night. Mwah.